The serious tarot integration seems to have ruffled more feathers than usual. I got a larger influx of the typical shit, people wanting me to be their father or wanting me to be dead on my other socials, but I didn't realize Fiverr has a messaging system. Thank God for that. Some benevolent communications, two orders, one on Fiverr, one on YouTube via Super Thanks. Thank you. Some not so benevolent. And the same thing happened when this channel integrated typology, so we'll do the same thing we did last time, explaining what it is, how it works, how we're using it, and why. And some additional thoughts before we get into that. Don't idealize the content creators you watch. You and the people you watch don't know each other. They aren't going to solve your problems. They don't take a special personal interest in you. They aren't going to solve all your problems. Any creators who tell you otherwise are lying. If you're telling yourself otherwise, you're deceiving yourself and you're setting yourself up to be disappointed, to be hurt, or to act stupid. I strongly recommend you enjoy some sunshine and get in touch with yourself. Find the answers in yourself instead of trying to find salvation in complete strangers. And then, regarding the direction of the channel, bringing in people who are going to ruin things, people were ruffled when typology got introduced. People are ruffled now that tarot is being introduced. However, what people seem not to recognize is you and the group you belong to or identify with are just as fucking stupid as them and the groups they identify with. The audience was mostly Cancer when we had 400 subscribers. The audience is mostly Cancer now. The audience will be mostly Cancer forever. That's people. You're going to find that everywhere. Always. When typology got introduced, people in dunce caps used their freedom of speech to inform me I am going to be inviting a bunch of dunces onto the channel with typology. And they were right then, and they're right now, but remember to look in the mirror once in a while. And if you're on the channel, remember to look around. Everyone here is toxic and stupid. Me most of all. Essentially, nothing is changing. All that's happening is an expansion into another circle of interests. Shit before, shit now, shit forever. Okay, what is tarot? A tarot deck is a deck of cards, each card representing an interpretive archetype of human nature or facet of life. That was a really loud stomach rumble. I haven't eaten, I am tweaking on 2 pots of coffee. As I understand it, the symbolism was initially drawn from esoteric traditions. I don't know all the history, but it was popularized as a parlor trick, an entertainment for the wealthy with edgy or interesting elements. However, the way it's been popularly used does not take away from its essence. You can train a wolf to be a dog that does flips and entertain people, but that doesn't change the fact genetically it still can and wants to maul you. That's where the Thoth deck comes in. Created collaboratively with Aleister Crowley and Frida Harris. Crowley changed a few things and amped up the symbolism. Harris handled the art and made everything look as strange as it should. Should have always, maybe. I have put on the screen a self-portrait Crowley drew. This is not a joke, he actually drew this. As someone on a Bolivian tarot interpretive dance forum put it, fucker would have loved Twitter. His life was a constant shitpost, and he is very interesting. Think about him what you will, but mystically he was onto something. That's why we read a Thoth deck. It's like tarot with the governor removed. I also really like a couple of his sentiments. The two being magic is for everyone, and every man and woman is a star. It reminds me of a song I really like, dedicated to a specific group of people, and the title of that song I am not allowed to say. But it sounds good, and I like the message. Okay, so how do most people use tarot, / the implicit question, why does tarot have a bad name? Well, a lot of people use basic tarot the same way they use basic astrology. I think that's why they get linked together and shit on so heavily. Well, popular astrology has nothing to do with the serious, intensive, traditional, historical, mystical side of things. It's like Scout Ant pheromones for Starbucks bitches. But when you look into the history of astrology and the way serious astrologers work, you bust out the tomes and the wheels and the orbs and look at it less from a clear, salvation-y, Jesus-y sort of way, as in this has all the answers all written out, and you start learning interesting things about the ways humans have developed, and weird shit, interesting shit does start happening. In fact, I haven't touched serious astrology because it's beyond me, right now anyway. But let's say you are coming from a strictly atheist point of view. Even if you go into that deeper end astrology, you may not get anything out of it aside from history. That's where tarot differs. And that's why we are using tarot. Because tarot, even if you do come to it from a strictly atheist point of view, there is a lot you can get out of it. So how do we use tarot? From a spiritual point of view and from an atheist point of view. Well, first and foremost, we use the Ballantree or Ballantrae method. I don't know how to pronounce his last name, but he is a super intelligent, kindly old wizard. He's a bright presence in the world. I'll link his channel in the description if you want to have a look. But he and his method emphasize intuition. Your mind connecting with these symbols. So you aren't dealing with a little booklet. Meaning the barrier for entry is much lower and the skill ceiling is much higher. And because each card is based in an archetype, especially the Thoth deck, something in the cards in your life is going to apply to you, whether you look at it spiritually or pragmatically, atheistically. If you based a deck of cards around the five senses, you're going to see something in them because you have the five senses. So you pick a spread that is something you are interested in, concerned about, whatever. And then you pick cards to fill up that spread, that concern. And in that spread, because each card in each position means something, you're going to develop a narrative using these archetypes or facets of life. You're connecting concepts under a concern or with a concern into a story. Now, if you look at that from a spiritual point of view, this is an opportunity for outside forces to give you perspective on things. the universe or whatever god you worship is giving you insight into something about yourself you're not seeing, something about your situation, things that have happened, things that could happen if they continue this way or if you change something. If you look at it from an atheistic point of view, by choosing a spread in the first place, you are identifying something you're concerned with. The cards remind you of aspects of your life you do deal with. And the whole thing becomes a meditative practice. What am I concerned about? How do these archetypes or facets of life affect my life right now? How have they affected my life? How are they affecting me now? What can I do with them or about them? If you are someone who has trouble examining yourself, asking yourself questions, the cards will force you to ask those questions because they're going to confront you with your concerns and parts of your life, whether you acknowledge them or not. Back to the five senses example, you can repress your sense of taste all you want, but the cards are going to confront you with the fact you do have a sense of taste. And this could be an opportunity for you to think about that, especially in your life narratively, if you choose to. Whether you are spiritual or mystical or atheistic, I prescribe tarot primarily as a meditative or reflective practice. However, despite all that, 2 times it differs. Time 1, it's completely wrong. And even in the tritest, most asinine spiritual tarot circles, people acknowledge this. My deck won't cooperate with me. They're aware of it. The most deluded are aware of it. So that is a possibility. Point 2, or time 2, weird shit does happen. Once again, spiritually or atheistically. Some shit lines up in really cutting, weird ways. And that seems to happen more often than you'd think. Once again, I am a spiritual type of person. So, regardless of who you are, most of the time it is a good reflective practice. Some of the time it's a waste of time. Other times, freaky. Call it chance, call it spirits, call it God, call it your personal guardian angel. I call it useful. Then why are we doing this on the channel? First and foremost, I need money, and I don't want to quit my job because I like it. That means taking side hustles more seriously. This is one I am capable of doing, not to toot my own horn, but I'm pretty good at doing, and one I am interested in. It gives me an excuse to study the disciplined side of mysticism. One of Alan Watts's concerns about psychedelics is people diving headfirst into it without the discipline, not the standing at attention for 12 hours discipline, but the trades discipline to get useful things out of it, to make it something worth doing instead of a toy. Funny, by the way, I forgot to mention this. Slim and I were talking the other day, and he dropped on me that he's interested in Alan Watts. He tried to loan me one of Watts's books that I already have, and then he told me when we further identified each other as knowers that he has owned and been listening to Alan Watts tapes, like actual tapes, for decades. He still has his originals. Cool shit. And additional cool note, I learned where Apocalypse Now as a phrase comes from. So I think back in the 60s or 70s there was a movement called Nirvana Now, which championed the idea you don't need spiritual discipline or practice or knowledge to achieve nirvana. All you need is a bunch of drugs. Nirvana Now. Take a bunch of psychedelics, achieve enlightenment without putting in the work. Apocalypse Now, as I understand it, came from John Milius as a response to the idea of Nirvana now. Nirvana, without discipline or practice or understanding, is like war, nuclear war, without humanity. It's ridiculous and dangerous and ultimately depressing in the extreme. Tarot for money gives me the excuse to study and practice something I was falling out of. Not gone from, but paying less attention to that side. And there is money to be made in it. Some of the mystical people I've interacted with have been a homosexual vampire and a number of black magic hoes, one of whom flipped the fuck out and cursed my testicles. This channel was full of freaks when there were the original 460 subscribers, and there are still plenty of freaks now. If you ever get a channel or anything popular, be very careful of interacting with your audience because they're psychotic. No offense. Regardless, what I learned from them is the way career readers make their money is they charge people a premium, but they live on repeat business. So someone gets their tarot read from the same person once a month. And that's actually a way I thought of doing Patreon. I really don't like Patreon, but if I can provide something in return for compensation rather than just receiving money from people, that's a little more reasonable. I feel a little better about that. So the idea here is to build trust and a client base and earn semi-regular money from repeat business. People who are interested in it and people who I like reading for. And our prices and formatting are very competitive. I think better than what a lot of people do. And we are introvert friendly. We don't do live readings, except by very special request. We do reports, examples of which you can see by clicking the Fiverr link in the pinned comment. It's also an opportunity to build a skill set I can use to earn money if I ever end up homeless, because who doesn't want to pay the weird ear-ringed necklaced homeless dude on the side of the street to read their future? What's more 80s movie than that? People will spend money on that. That'll buy me some cheeseburgers. And then for the channel, it's another audience to bring into the fold, to boost our numbers, to get more people in. Yes, they're going to be cancer, but some of them won't be. Some of them will be higher-end people who have valuable information and ideas to contribute. We have gotten them from typology. We have gotten them from spiritualism. This could be another way to bring good blood into the channel. And it is something fun to do. This channel isn't very fun. One of the reasons I like the Thoth deck is it's the self-portrait we showed. You get readings like that. It's not all happy horse shit. You're going to see and hear things that are uncomfortable or funny because life is not always happy. I mean, on this channel we know life is almost never happy, but for most people, this is an opportunity to confront or be confronted by a stranger look at things. A more realistic, I'd argue, look at things. Getting to read someone's spread and tell them straight-faced they have erectile dysfunction is ceaselessly funny. I think that about covers everything. Today, maybe tomorrow, maybe the next day, I think we're going to try to tackle that one larger topic we mentioned last time. I still haven't figured out what that one larger topic is, but I think if I just hit the points I'm thinking of as they come, maybe we'll get somewhere. Every time I make a video, I almost never make notes, and even when I do, I feel like I have to say a prayer that I'm going to say the things I need to say in the ways I need to say them. Maybe with this next video, we trust the universe and see what we get. Probably going to be horribly messy, but we'll see. Like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you haven't.